What, you gonna start a family, play house, break some generational curses?
Shut the up.
Oh, hey, Diana. I was just telling Tariq that you should consider an abortion. Because with you two as parents, your baby's screwed.
Revenge was a central theme going into season 4, and what we saw play out in terms of Kamaal Tate's death and Diana potentially losing her baby, this will change the complexion of the game not just for characters like Tariq, Diana and the Tejadas, but also Rashaad Tate. Some of these characters are going to be on a warpath, and if we thought episode 6 was a bit of a bloodbath, I'm sure there's definitely more blood that's going to be spilled from now until the end of season 4 because of everything that episode 6 has set up. So, as usual, in this recap and breakdown for episode 6, we're going to focus on all the major details and talking points from Devil's Playground, looking at a bunch of clues, Easter eggs, along with a theory or two. We'll be focusing on the theme of revenge, leverage, corrupt law enforcement, and chess moves.
Because my father, he was a complicated man. He saw his family as a reflection of himself. And he always did what he thought was best for us. Although I didn't agree with all of his choices, I will say that I learned a lot about how I want to live my own life. It taught me lessons about knowing who to trust, thinking ahead, and finding a better way to do just about anything.
Now, this episode kicks off with Drew spying on Detective Carter. At the end of 405, Carter made sure that he had the Tejadas wrapped right around his finger. They were going to do as he says and pay him this 35%. So, in order for the Tejadas to kind of break free, Monet realized that they needed to gain some leverage, just like Tariq had with Noma. Unfortunately, not only did Drew not manage to get any dirt, Carter knew he was there. It was kind of horror movie-like. One minute you see him, you take your eye off him for just 1 second, and then he's gone. But instead, standing right behind you. Meanwhile, with Monet and Diana, we pick up with them baby shopping. They were having much needed mother and daughter time, which is something we've never actually seen before. But Diana choosing to have this baby does give this relationship and also Monet a second chance to do it right. Not like she did with Kane, Drew and Diana. Now while they were here, she ducked Carter's call, but made sure she made a move as soon as Drew called, who wasn't exactly pleased that while he was putting himself on the line, trying to gain some leverage for the Tejadas to use against Carter, they were playing Happy Families baby shopping. But all that was soon to be irrelevant. In came Carter and his task force from multiple different angles, boxing them in the dining room. Carter wasn't pleased that he had to come all the way to the Tejada house to get Monet's attention. He was here to collect his 35% and also get answers in regards to whose supply Monet actually stole last night. As we all know, Carter likes to control each and every single player in New York. But from the task force in season 3 which he mentioned, which was Jenny Sullivan, Blanca Rodriguez and Junior Valdez, they never really figured out who was the actual connect, although Junior did. All the information was on this flash drive, which is now in the hands of Tariq and Braden. But, of course, there was no way Monet was just going to drop Noma's name. She kept quiet. Now before things could actually take a turn for the worst, this is where Carter received a text. Zay Green, who was one of the external soldiers that Monet brought in to help with the hit from the previous night, he was alive and in the infirmary downtown, which made them arrest Drew because they had a job for him. With Felicia Lewis, she questioned Diana about the baby stuff, but again, she kept quiet. So, Felicia Lewis took a few bags and also the snow globe of a woman holding a baby, which she purposely dropped on the floor. Maybe a little foreshadow for what was to come later on, as she potentially may have shattered Diana's baby dream. But this right here, the danger that Diana found herself in, this is exactly the reason why she wanted nothing to do with this life. She wants to study at Stansfield. She wants to raise this baby the right way, and away from a life which Carter actually said in this scene only ends in 25 to life or death. Unfortunately, the fact that she is a Tejada and the fact that the father is a St Patrick, life is anything but normal. Now speaking of Tariq, him and Braden met Noma and Kane in a public place where they knew she couldn't try and do anything silly. But the purpose of this meeting was for Tariq and Braden to play their card. They warned Noma that they wanted her to back off, because not only could they blow Noma's secret in regards to her being behind Anya's father's death in Milan, they also had Junior's flash drive, which was his investigation into Noma's enterprise.
Some work that I did on my own that I'm still doing could reveal a bigger drug conspiracy.
And Okeki's connection to a woman named Noma Asaju, the piece we couldn't nail before. I'm guessing she's your connect.
This is also where he took a leaf out of Cooper Sax's book, Just like Cooper Saxe played dirty from beyond his grave at the end of season 3, he promised Noma that if anything will happen to him or Brayden, then the contents of this flash drive would go straight to law enforcement, along with exposing her secrets to her daughter, Anya. So, just like we spoke about before, it is always good to hold some sort of leverage. You never know when you're going to need it. Now the problem with this deal was, they always knew it was just a short-term respite. They knew the moment Noma could pounce and take them off the chessboard, she would. That's why Tariq wanted to make sure that they had control of all the moving chess pieces from the distributor to the supplier. That was the only way to get to the top. But let's not forget about the other chess move with Anya. That's one of Tariq's biggest moves. He's using Anya to get closer to Noma and as a way to kind of get information he can use to his advantage, which Anya did give. She started to open up to Tariq about how her father was killed a few months ago, which Tariq already knows. But something he didn't know was Noma has a brother in Nigeria. They seem to visit a lot of countries, from London, Milan, to various other countries in South America. But Nigeria is the one place where Noma refuses to take Anya, and I wonder why. This bit of information wasn't dropped in here by accident. It's definitely something to keep in mind and something that Tariq will definitely dig into to try and get some more leverage. For example, maybe Noma's connect, her boss, who could potentially be her brother, is in Nigeria, especially because it is known Noma does try and keep Anya away from anything to do with her drug world. So that's just a thought. Tariq will definitely dig into this bit of information in regards to Nigeria. Now with Noma, she had no time to think about Tariq and Brayden. She had a meeting with Wiley Adams. Now while they were at this meeting, Wiley Adams let her know that any issues that she had previously was smoothed over for, of course, a price. She finally struck a deal for those government contracts she was looking for. However, this is where her deal completely turned upside down. In a drive-by, Zion sprayed a hell of a number of bullets which inadvertently caught Wiley Adams. And as Wiley Adams went, I'm sure so did Noma's government contracts. Noma knew she was screwed, but rather than taking accountability for some of her own actions, she actually threw the blame down in Kane's direction. Let's not forget, in episode 5, after Zion interrupted her meeting with Wiley Adams, she was the one who wanted Zion dealt with for almost scuppering her deal. Kane just did what he normally does, and she wasn't exactly mad when Kane beat Zion on his own turf, although she did warn he would retaliate.
We hurt his pride. He isn't going to let that go. I'm going to have to be prepared for his retaliation.
So this was Zion retaliating and making her shit a whole lot worse for Noma. Not only did Zion kill a government official who was a DC power broker, she knew her government contracts were lost, maybe for good. Although having said that, I do think there is one more person who could potentially help. Rashaad Tate, someone who definitely will be appearing after the death of his brother. Why he'd help Noma, maybe as a favour for Tariq, as he cooks up a more sinister plan to take her empire from beneath her. Very similar to how Milan waited until Ghost signed the deal with Karen Bassett and took Felipe Lobos off the board. So that's just a small little prediction. Rashaad Tate has a lot of influence that could come in handy. Now during this meeting, Effie was also summoned. Noma wanted her to use her relationship with the Russians to see if they could move some more product. This is also where we kind of got a bit of an inkling with how Kane still has a bit of a soft spot for Effie, but again, we will come back around to their relationship a bit later on. Now Zion killing Wiley Adams caused more issues than one. Not only did he inadvertently kill a government official, Detective Carter was fuming. He had a deal in place with Zion, a point I did raise in my episode 4 breakdown. When Kamaal Tate came to Carter's office with the information of Roman Price running drugs for Zion, you could clearly tell from the way Detective Carter brushed aside Kamaal's investigation. He already had a deal in place with Zion. However, he didn't take too kindly to his threats of going public in regards to their arrangement. Threats is something Carter doesn't stand for, so even though he placed him at the safe house to lay low, he warned Felicia Lewis Zion needed to be taken off the chessboard. It had to be done quickly and quietly, but most importantly, he left this in the hands of Detective Lewis. The problem with Felicia Lewis was, she found herself under fire from internal affairs for using excessive force. Detective Carter mentioned that they did have IAB sniffing around, so he wanted to make sure they crossed every single T and dotted every single I. However, the fact that Lewis got a call from IAB to come in, you could tell that the pressure was getting to her, and she started to make a few desperate moves. She knew she couldn't be in two places at once, which is why she went back to the Tejada household looking for Monet. She actually wanted Monet to deal with the Zion situation, but because it was just Diana, she forced Diana to carry out her dirty work. She not only said Zion wouldn't see it coming from someone like Diana, she also thought because the Tejadas have been in the game for many years, they're all killers. She thought this was nothing new for Diana. Unfortunately, the fact is, Diana isn't a killer, at least not yet. What happened to her later on in episode 6 might actually turn her into one, but she certainly isn't a killer from what we've seen. We have seen Monet teaching her how to load a gun and how to handle a gun back in season 2, but pulling the trigger, we all know it's a different ballgame. But again, just like I mentioned, after what happened to Diana at the end of 406, don't be surprised to see Diana on a warpath, where we do start to see a much darker character. In the meantime, she turned to arguably the only person she could actually go to, in Tariq St Patrick. However, just before she could tell Tariq, she had to quickly leave to throw up, which is where Effie came in. She put 2 + 2 together, because rumours were going around Stansfield that Diana was pregnant thanks to Brushandria. In episode 3, Brushandria accidentally found out Diana was pregnant, and I did mention, when you're at college, students do talk. Rumours get passed around from one person to another, and just like Chinese whispers, they can spread pretty quick with people twisting the truth. So that's how Effie knew, and with Diana rushing to throw up, it just confirmed the rumours. But as she figured out Tariq was a father, she didn't exactly hold back. In fact, she was loud on purpose so everybody in the candy store could hear exactly what she was saying. So, Diana and Tariq's secret isn't so much of a secret anymore. Now there was a little look between Tariq and this student walking by, which I'm sure some of you may have clocked. However, Power do have a tendency to throw in a few curveballs, and there are a few from past episodes which haven't really amounted to much. So, I don't actually believe there is anything in this little exchange, but just thought it was worth a mention. Now I did actually agree with one thing Effie did say in this conversation. She said with both of them as parents, the baby is screwed. Diana may actually have good intentions in raising this baby the right way. Tariq also wants to do right by Diana and be there for her and his unborn baby. But the fact that Diana is a Tejada, where danger always seems to follow, and the fact that Tariq is a St Patrick, was she right when she said the baby is screwed? Do Tariq and Diana really believe they can raise this baby in this environment without putting him or her in harm's way? I mean, that's what Ghost tried to do for the entirety of Power, and we all saw how he not only struggled, but also how he lost Reign of St Patrick, albeit Tariq played a huge part through a lot of stupidity. But let me know what you guys think. Is Effie right? With Tariq and Diana as parents, is the baby screwed? Now in regards to what Felicia Lewis was asking of Diana, this was Davis McLean's response.
What the fuck?
As he let Tariq know that Zion was racking up a lot of enemies, it made Tariq think. He realized that they could actually use this to their advantage by creating a deal with Noma. The deal was, he'd get rid of Zion in exchange for her becoming his connect on more favourable terms, which she did agree to, but with her standard warning. Now just like Tariq was trying to protect Diana, Monet was trying to protect Kane. She came to the penthouse to warn him to stay away from Noma because Detective Carter was on the hunt for the actual connect, and when and if he does close in, she didn't want Kane to be caught in his crosshairs. Unfortunately, Kane was in no mood to take advice from someone who hasn't really treated him with the respect that he felt as if he deserved. In fact, he was also on the hunt for Zion. He went to the fight club where he bumped into Scoop, Zay Green's brother. He wasn't happy at the fact that his brother was now in an infirmary in jail. He blamed the Tejadas because he always wanted to get down with them, but when he did, this happened. This was also the moment where Kane actually pretty much figured out the truth. It was his own family that stole Noma's supply. He did also later confront Monet, and despite her denying that she wasn't the one who was behind it, Kane definitely knew the truth. We've all seen his evolution from season 1, how he's become a lot more strategic, and how he's able to piece the puzzle together about various situations. It was just a question of, what was he going to do with this information? Well, later on, he decided to tell Noma that it was Zion, because a dead man can't defend himself. So, he decided against throwing his family under the bus. But, whether Noma learns the real truth at a later date, it's definitely something that could potentially happen, and something that could cause a problem between them, which could also potentially give Kane a decision to make in terms of picking his family or Noma. We all know Noma doesn't like being lied to, so just something to keep in mind. This could actually come back around and give Kane a decision to make. Now just continuing with this theme of protecting family, Detective Carter did meet Monet later on, where she fed him false information they stole the product from the Russians. In exchange for this information, she wanted Drew to be released. But when Carter refused, Monet gave him a stern warning about her rules. If he hurts her kids, she's gonna come for him, and that's something we can definitely back when it comes to Monet. We only have to look at what she did to Lorenzo after he accidentally killed Zeke. If she was willing to go to the extent to eliminate the father of their 3 kids, then what do you think she's gonna do to Carter given the chance? So, this threat that she gave Detective Carter, you can bet Monet is someone who would follow through on a promise. However, equally, Detective Carter gave as good as he got. He wasn't fazed one bit. So, let's see what the next chess moves are. which may be with Drew taking center stage. So with Drew, he was given a task by Detective Nico Halston. He wanted Drew to deal with Zay Green, who survived the shooting from the previous night, because with Zay alive, that put the entire task force at risk. It was also quite ironic that he also called Drew a mama's boy, because that's something he always kind of teased Kane being. But on Drew getting rid of Zay, he had to find a way to get into the infirmary. The way he did this was by attacking Roman Price. So, just as a quick reminder, Roman Price used to move product for Zion, who we met way back in episode 2. He was also arrested by Kamaal Tate and Detective Carter in episode 3, and I'm going to come back around to Roman in just a moment. But with Drew now in the infirmary, he did what needed to be done. He got rid of Zay, and you do have to admit, when Drew properly has his head in the game, he does actually get shit done. But now was his time for his next move. He warned Detective Halston there was a rat inside the prison who was about to blow up the crooked task force. Earlier on when Drew was in the canteen, he overheard Roman talking about how he was going to speak to his lawyer and blow the lid on Carter's task force, because one thing they hate more than criminals is dirty cops. So Drew said that he was happy to deal with this problem for them, but only if they leave his family alone, and where he'd get more of a lieutenant role with respect rather than being pushed around like an errand boy. So definitely expect Drew to maybe complete at least one more mission while he's in jail in episode 7 before he is released. Now, from one mission to another, Tariq and Brayden getting rid of Zion. Tariq was less than impressed with Brayden being coked out his face and all over the place at Stansfield. Him being on this product will become a problem. I do think at some point Tariq's patience will begin to wear thin. Even though Brayden has been down for whatever, the deeper he gets in with this drug, and when and if his relationship with Elle starts to take a turn, which I still fully expect it to do at some point in part 2, Tariq's patience will definitely wear thin. But for the time being, they were on the same page in terms of getting rid of Zion. They got his location thanks to Brayden messaging Zion for a re-up, and now it was just about whether or not they could execute. Now, getting rid of Zion was never going to be an easy task, even though it was 2-on-1. Zion is a street fighter, and it certainly did show. At the beginning of this fight, he saw Brayden and Tariq coming from a mile away, and he certainly did treat them like a pair of ragdolls. He flung Brayden through a wall, and he used Tariq like a bit of a punching bag, like he's been pretty much throughout the entirety of Power Book 2 Ghost. For example, with Bars, Nuff, Kane, and a few others. But as he almost choked Tariq out, we saw Brayden coming in and making use of the 2-on-1 advantage. It was then game over for Zion. Tariq took a piece of glass just like Ghost once did with Kanan back in season 2 and hit him over and over again in the stomach. As Zion lay on the floor knowing that he was about to face death, he said, "Alright little Ghost, I see you." So, from Zion pushing Tariq around when he first met him and taunting him how Ghost was so far superior, he was now admitting Tariq was indeed his father's son. And I did mention before, let's keep an eye on what's actually said in this conversation before Tariq does pull the trigger. Now, whether Tariq has actually earned the name of Ghost, I personally don't think so. He's definitely moving a lot different. He is showing a different kind of energy, and he is making shrewder chess moves, but Ghost, in my opinion, was on a different level. Now, this episode was definitely a bit of a bloodbath, and Zion's death wasn't the only one. With the information from Monet in regards to the Russians, Carter and his task force moved in on the restaurant, with Effie present. Vadim actually has a soft spot for Effie because she helped change her daughter's backstroke time by hacking into Princeton's database, which got her an early acceptance. But their drinks were cut short as Carter and his task force moved in, and it was said before, Vadim and the Russians don't go down too easy. They're not like the other crews who bow down to Carter's demands. This is a crew that will go down in a blaze of gunfire. With Effie, she cleverly played dead until the coast was clear, only to be stopped by a member of Carter's team. In this moment, I think Effie's life flashed before her eyes. She thought it was over for her, one way or another, but she was thrown a lifeline by one of the Russians who caught the detective on the back of his bulletproof vest. Now, he was later also caught by Detective Halston, who shot him while he was unarmed, not knowing Kamaal Tate was watching on from behind, and that was a huge problem. We always knew Kamaal Tate would at some point figure out the real truth about what this task force was really up to. It was just a matter of when, not if. So, as he started to reveal to Detective Carter what he's pieced together in terms of his investigation, and his theory in regards to Detective Halston being dirty, having Drew carry out some dirty work with Zay Green in jail, Carter came clean. He let Kamaal Tate know that he learned the only way to beat them was to play them at their own game. He called it doing God's work, and offered to bring Kamaal in, and also offered him money. However, we know Kamaal Tate is only one of a very few good cops in power. He's straight by the book. But with that little hesitation, where he said he needed a second to think, it cost him his life. Carter didn't want to kill Tate, but he felt as if he had no option. As we learn throughout episode 6, Carter deals with every single loose end, whether they're in the infirmary, in jail, in a safe house hidden away, or if you know too much information, if you're a loose end, you need to be dealt with. Now, what this also guarantees is Rashaad Tate's return. You can guarantee that Rashaad Tate will be back with a vengeance. He's going to question the one person who's always linked to everything, Tariq, and it's not going to take them long to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So, this kill actually might be the beginning of the end for Carter, along with Felicia Lewis's mistakes. Now, in regards to the aftermath for Effie, she was curled up in a ball really shaken up about what she just went through, because in that moment, she thought it was all over. But in came Kane to be there for her, because he did still care. Maybe he realized Noma was treating him just like Monet did, and he's just as expendable as Obi once was, which made him realize he made the wrong choice. So, let's see how this relationship develops going into the home stretch. Now, as the night was coming to an end, we do have to mention, Felicia Lewis has CCTV footage of Tariq taking the kill shot on Zion. Unbeknown to Tariq and Braden, there was a camera in the safe house in the corner, which does put everybody at risk, including Detective Carter. Just imagine law enforcement finding Zion. The text message that Carter sent with the address of the safe house to the CCTV footage, it would bring down the entire house of cards. So, she made a move on Diana. She confronted her about how Tariq St Patrick was the one who did the dirty work, which puts them all at risk. But Diana wasn't having any of it. She was done being pushed around by Felicia Lewis, and as she turned, she hit Lewis. And this is where Felicia Lewis signed her death certificate. She not only punched Diana in the stomach, she dropped her on the floor and repeatedly kicked her in the stomach, not knowing that she was pregnant. Now, Tariq was supposed to meet Diana for a late night dessert, but instead, he found her here. And what are the odds that Diana loses her baby because of Felicia Lewis's beatdown? Because it's not looking good. And if she does, you can guarantee all hell will break loose. There's also the small matter of Tariq and Braden being on CCTV committing a murder, which will definitely make things a lot more complex. But the big question is, will Diana's baby survive? Drop all your thoughts and predictions down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.